Oh boy. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Let's get some things going here. Da-da-da-da-da. Let's go to my YouTubes. A-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-doo. Let's get that. Okay. Let me grab this. And let me go here. All right. There we go. Now we're going to close that down. Juggernauts. I am surprised that to see you this early in the day, sir. I'm surprised to see you this early in the day. We'll give it a few minutes for some more people to show up, and we'll start with actual topics of the day. But in the meantime, you want to ask me something, go ahead and ask me. This how do I pronounce that? Narakami? Narakami, this is where it would benefit you to follow me on Twitter. Because I announced last week on Twitter that due to things that were going on in my job life, I was going to have to start doing the 7thCast from noon to 3 for a while on Saturdays if I was going to be able to do it at all. So because of the fact that you don't follow me on Twitter, you didn't know. But now you do. Yep. Hi, J-Chip. Hi, Alexis. How's everybody doing today? Got a lot of things to talk about. And, of course, there will be plenty of time for Q&A and all that glorious stuff. It has been a very trying few months. And of course, I haven't done the 7thCast till over a month. And it's all because of work, man. This is our busy season. I work for a massive company, well over 20,000 employees. And this is our busiest time of the year. And it runs from like March all the way up to the tip of June. And quite often, the staff that we have on my team is not sufficient to handle the amount of work coming in. And being a salaried lead on that team, being second to the manager, I often am required to do some, shall we say, uncompensated additional work because I'm a salaried employee. And that kind of work often happens on Saturdays because there are fewer distractions going on and on Saturdays. And so the view is that I can get more work done when there's nothing else going on that could stop me from concentrating on the workload that's there. Because I'm in a position where I'm required to train. I'm required to act as a sort of liaison between multiple other teams, almost like a business relationship manager type of thing, but without all the travel involved. And then, of course, I also have my own personal workload of projects. And so my daily life is balancing between working on my project, stopping to train or correct someone that did something wrong, and being constantly stopped by folks hitting me up for various things, wanting to find out about the status of a project, wanting to interface or have a meeting with me and other people concerning various upcoming projects, that kind of thing. And so it's all about multitasking. And I manage all of it through Teams. So I'm like talking to this person, I'm having a meeting over here, and over here I'm still trying to finish out a project that I was working on. And So they decided, Saturdays or Sundays or both would be perfect times for me to try to help catch everything up by uh, focusing on just the project work because everyone else is off for the most part. And so there won't be people hitting me up for meetings, and there won't be people hitting me up with questions, and there won't be people making mistakes that I have to train or retrain, and so on and so forth. So that's why I haven't been here for a month. And that's why I decided to try doing it, the 7thCast from noon to 3 for a while and see how that goes. Because usually when I'm needed on a Saturday is later on in the afternoon, like from like 5 to 10 or what have you. So here I am. And obviously this isn't going to go great because normally there would already be 10 or 15 people in here, and currently we're sitting at 7 or 8. So I would imagine that most of the folks that would normally be here to ask questions and whatnot are going to end up watching the replay. Is what it is. At least until they get used to the idea that it's going to be a 12 to 3 thing. But even then, on Saturdays, 12 to 3 is when people tend to be going to see movies, going to do their weekend hangouts, their weekend shopping or whatever. So I don't really know how this is going to go. I don't really know how this is going to go as far as viewership goes. Because as you guys know, the 7thCast is all about interaction. And if there ain't that many people there to interact and ask questions, well, what kind of show will it really be? You know what I'm saying? And it's not like I have a co-host where we can talk back and forth about given topics. I don't have that. It's all Q&A, and Q&A is all that it's ever been. So unless people get clued into the fact that it's going to be noon to 3 for a while, I don't know how successful this is going to be. But it was worth a shot. I mean, it's better than no 7thCast at all, right? It may just end up me talking about random topics for 3 hours because there's nobody in here to ask me questions. We'll figure that out. Let's see. From Brother Natural, the Saturn and Dreamcast prioritized mostly on arcade types of games, which may have led to their downfall in the console market. Well, thanks for your input there, Brother Natural. But we weren't talking about that, and that's not a question. So that was just kind of out of nowhere. So, in 2 minutes, we'll officially start the show. Favorite Sam Raimi movie? Oh, that would have to be a toss-up between, honestly, Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness. I mean, I like all the Spider-Man movies, but where I discovered Raimi was in the Evil Dead films, and so, I'll always have a soft spot in my heart for those movies. Which it is rumored, I don't know if it'll actually happen or not, but it's rumored that Ash will have a cameo in the new Doctor Strange film. Because Raimi basically owns the rights to that character, so he can put, as long as Bruce Campbell is willing to do it, he can put Ash in pretty much any project that he works on. So that's what I've heard. Hi, Chris. Glad to see you on here, sir. So, no changes to the format. I don't even have any real set topics for this one. You can ask whatever you want. Will donations still give us extra time? So long... I won't be able to go 6 hours because from that 5 to 10 period is when I'm expected to be available in case I'm needed. So, but potentially I could go from an extra 2 hours. So, if we hit 75, you can get up to a 5-hour podcast, but that's it. Otherwise, J-Chip, I don't know what additional benefit you would want from donations. Because, mostly the donations always go towards purchasing things to help improve the stream quality, help improve. Wait a minute. Magic powers. Or improving the quality of the videos, buying games for me to review for the videos, but I haven't been making any reviews either because I'm just exhausted. And by the way, it's 12 o'clock. It's Saturday, April 30th, and this is the 7thCast. As always, I'm your venerable host, your friendly neighborhood 7th. I would imagine that 8th is not even awake yet, because 8th is a night owl. He'll stay up all night playing video games, and then he'll sleep till 3 or 4 in the afternoon. So, he is most likely out right now. That being said, I just went over the reasons for why we were doing this, so I'm not going to repeat any of that as far as why I'm streaming at noon instead of 6. Same rules apply. 3-hour podcast. It can be extended, but for the time being, it can only be extended by 2 hours. I can't be streaming any later than 5 p.m. my time, because I have to be available from 5 to 10 p.m. in case work requires me to be there for the foreseeable future. So, it is what it is. It is what it is. There has been a lot that has gone on in my life aside from work since we last spoke. As you guys know, I have chronic stomach issues, and every now and again I have a very, very intense attack of this stomach issue, which causes just tremendous pain across here and down into my lower back and various other things. And those usually last about an hour and then they go away. And they only happen about every 6 months or so. Well, I had one of those attacks way back in February. And whereas my turnaround time for having one of those is usually like, I'll have it, it'll be there for an hour, and then, I'll have various aftershock symptoms for about 2 weeks. Those aftershock symptoms are usually lower abdominal stomach cramps and the shits. Well, instead, this time I had that bad attack, and then I had the after effects of it right up until about 2 weeks ago. So, for 2 months, I was having the liquid shits like 3 and 4 times a week, and like cramps all the time, stomach pain all the time, mild, not like my attacks. And it stopped for the most part about 2 weeks ago, and now I'm only getting like the liquid shits once a week. So my annual checkup is in a couple of weeks, and they're going to run more blood work on me. They don't suspect that I have anything life-threatening because of the fact that I'm not usually anything that would cause those symptoms that's like severely life-threatening, like bowel cancer or stomach cancer or anything like that. I don't have any of the other symptoms that go along with those illnesses. One of the biggest ones being massive weight loss. I've had a little bit of weight loss, not much. We're talking like a couple pounds. But as you can see, I haven't really lost that much weight since the last time you saw me. It's like a couple pounds. I am still, quite over the line of being overweight. Trust me. So what they suspect is that the type 2 diabetes is causing various issues with my liver, and which we already knew, and or my pancreas. So I might have like a mild but acute case of pancreatitis or something like that. It's just a side effect of my fatty liver disease. So we'll know more once they get the blood work back. From Zombie, $5. Thank you, Zombie. That reminds me, since you're watching, thank you. Let me first of all, let me give you a dollar bill here. Dollar bill for Zombie. That reminds me, for a little over a year now, Zombie has been looking for various things for me that was going to gift me for my collection. I hate to say it, but at least on one of those things, Zombie, you waited a little bit too long because look what showed up in my Retro Game Treasure box this week. Yes, I was talking about canceling my Retro Game Treasure subscription because I was getting a bunch of garbage. And they reached out to me and they were like, well, give us another chance. Can you help us fine tune your profile so that we won't be sending you stuff you don't want anymore? And I was like, if you've sent it to me on Xbox, I don't want it on PS2. If you've sent it to me on PS2, I don't want it on Xbox. I have no need to have multiple copies of Spy Hunter. I don't like casino games. I don't like sports games. I don't like kiddie games. So no Sesame Street, nothing like that. No Monopoly, no Kid Casino, none of that stuff. And they said, well, is there any particular game that you've been kind of looking for that we can maybe throw into your next one? And I named off a bunch of stuff that I've been looking for, and one of them was this. And so in the very next box, here it is. So Zombie, you're off the hook on this one. And it's pristine, man. It has like a couple little cracks on the case, which of course, you know, you can always put them in a different case. But the disc is pristine. It doesn't have a single scratch on it. Looks brand new. So you're off the hook on this one. No, I still do not have a box 5200, but I do have one. In case you weren't aware of what one is, it's a PS1 single-player quasi 2.5D Contra clone. It's not a valuable or rare game. You can get it box complete for somewhere around $8 to $10 now, somewhere around in there. I think even if you had a sealed one, it's only worth maybe 15 to 20. So it's not a rare game, and yet when you go into used game stores or you go to conventions, you never see this game. I've looked. You never see it. But Retro Game Treasure managed to find me one. So, Zombie, you can give that copy that you did find to someone else, or, you know, trade it in or keep it for your own collection, whatever. I have one. But I still don't have a box 5200 yet. Let's see here. Let me catch up real quick. What do you think of the Kingdom Hearts 4 announcement? I was not a big fan of Kingdom Hearts 3, so I'm not looking forward to it one way or the other. My main hope is if Kingdom Hearts is going to be good, for me, less Pixar movies. Kingdom Hearts 3 was the Pixar game. Most of its stuff was either Pixar movies or movies that felt similar to Pixar movies like Big Hero 6. You know, I like the stuff that's on the older side of Disney. You know, why have we never had a Treasure Planet level? Why have we never had an Atlantis the Lost Empire level? You know, why is Lilo and Stitch just characters in the game instead of having their own big level, the big world? You know, they've dabbled in Tron in Kingdom Hearts 2, but they haven't done Tron Legacy. And there's other Disney movies that they could be doing. You know, they could be doing a lot more with live action stuff, with Mary Poppins and Island at the Top of the World, Condor Man. Could you imagine a Condor Man level where you've got the car and you've got the Condor Man boat and, you know, you're able to fly around with those stupid wings and everything? That would be, and you could maybe have combat moves that had that same kind of Inspector Clouseau accidentally kicking everyone's ass type combat. That'd be hilarious and it would be a lot of fun. But no one remembers Condor Man, so they're not going to go there. But I would, by the end of Kingdom Hearts 3, I was sick of the Pixar stuff, man. I was sick of it. And they've also extremely lowered the amount of stuff from Final Fantasy in it. So, I don't have any hopes one way or the other about Kingdom Hearts 4. Was the point I was trying to get at, I guess. Sounds like you were not having good times. I've been having terrible times. Not very good times at all. Because, on top of that, this can, you guys already know that I have a bad lower back. Every time I get attacks of this stuff, my lower back makes it to where I'm not comfortable no matter what I'm doing. If I'm sitting, I'm uncomfortable. If I'm reclining in my recliner, I'm uncomfortable. If I'm walking around, I'm very uncomfortable. I just hurt all the time. And I don't take pain meds, aside from occasionally ibuprofen. Are you still doing keto? Yes, I'm still doing keto. You should switch the dollar bill phrase to the $7th bill. Well, whatever. I've heard one was pretty good. It's not great, but it's not horrible either. It's just one that I used to have, and I wanted it back because when I first started rebuilding my collection back in like 2009 or so, my first goal was to rebuy all the games I used to own. And I still don't have all the games I used to own. But that was one that just kept eluding me. No matter what I did, I couldn't find one. So I'm glad about that. That does look better than the copy I was going to send. Cool. I'm still scouting the 5200. Okay. Kingdom Hearts should at least include Final Fantasy Worlds for once. Yeah. Was the Batman good? It was on demand. It's on demand for $25. That I didn't pay for it. I watched it on HBO Max. Me and Eighth did go see it at the theater, and then we rewatched it like 1 month later on HBO Max. I haven't bought it because I don't like it enough to purchase it. And now having watched it 2 times, I'm even more aware of the issues that I had with it watching it the first time. I haven't been able to do much since a new job and have been battling pneumonia. Great birthday present for myself. Yeah, pneumonia. I've never had it, but Eighth has had it, and it wasn't fun. He had it back when he was like 8 or 9, something like that. 7. Thought of Prince of Persia. Some of them I really like. Some of them I don't like at all. It's kind of... I don't like the original ones at all. That whole kind of thing that they kind of started and it evolved into flashback and very out of this world, and that kind of gameplay I don't like. I would throw Karateka in there too, or Karateka, or however you like to pronounce it. I've always called it Karateka. I would throw it in a little bit with that style of gameplay too, but I like the later Prince of Persia games, like that started with the reboot of it with Sands of Time. The Prince of Persia game on Dreamcast, which was a port of a PC game. It's horrible. Don't waste your time with it. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if we see Star Wars and Marvel characters show up in Kingdom Hearts. Well, I know we're going to see Star Wars characters because a Star Wars character was in the Kingdom Hearts trailer they showed. Did you not see it? When you go back and watch that Kingdom Hearts 4 footage, there is a scene that takes place in woods. And at one point, for just a fraction of a second, you're looking at like the ground, and over here in the corner is the foot of one of those 2-legged walkers from Return of the Jedi. Like the ones that got smashed between 2 swinging trees. Yeah, you see one of its feet standing there. So Star Wars is going to be in Kingdom Hearts. It was right there. As far as Marvel characters, that I kind of doubt, but it's definitely going to have Star Wars in it. Imagine if Kingdom Hearts went to Song of the South world. Oh God. I could see Brer Rabbit and some of them maybe showing up, maybe. but definitely not like, Uncle Remus and all that kind of thing. And I mean, I haven't seen that movie since I was 9, maybe 9, 10. My uncle, who was much older than me, had imported a VHS of it from like somewhere over in Europe. So it was still in English, of course, but they didn't release it on VHS here in the States for obvious reasons. But they did release it over in Disney did release it over in Europe, and my uncle imported a copy. Uh, and So I got to see the whole thing. It was the first time I'd ever seen the whole thing. And they could just make it, they could maybe even like include Brer Rabbit and whatnot as like a side section of the Winnie the Pooh shit, because they both take place in the woods and they both have cartoon animals and blah blah blah. But I don't think they would even do that. There was talk for the longest time that they were going to take Brer Rabbit and all that out of Splash Mountain and turn it into a Princess and the Frog ride. It didn't end up happening, but they did talk about it. So I think Disney is still content with pretending that movie never existed. Hence why it's not on Disney Plus with a warning sign saying it has insensitive blah blah blah. They don't care about their own history in that regard. And I went fuzzy for a minute there. I'm still kind of getting used to this new 4K camera. I haven't quite mastered it yet. Do you go to a chiropractor for your back? Hell no. Chiropractors are snake oil salesmen. One time my dad was having similar issues to what I have now with his lower back. And he went to a chiropractor. And 2 days later, his back was worse than it was before. Because then after that, he was having pain in places that he never had pain in his back before. So, I don't consider chiropractors to be of any potential medical benefit any more than a phrenologist would. You might have to look up what a phrenologist is. Hey, 7th, what are you playing? I ain't played crap all week. The last time I played a video game was a week ago tomorrow. It was last Sunday. And what did I play? I played Ghostwire Tokyo for several hours. I've beaten Tiny Tina's Wonderland. I have not 100%ed it, but I have beaten it. With Ghostwire Tokyo, I'm about 15 hours into it, and I'm only just past chapter 3. That game, the more I play it, the more it feels like an Ubisoft game, because it has this massive map. The map is big. I wouldn't go so far as to say that it's Ubisoft big, because it's certainly not as big as like Assassin's Creed Valhalla. But it is a big map, and it has tons of collectibles and side quests. And one positive I will say is that the side quests are pretty varied. You may have a side quest that's just go find my cat, and the cat's literally like down the street, and you just go get it and bring it back. But then there's other side quests where you're having to kind of like exercise a haunted apartment or stuff like that. And all of the side quests have their own unique story, their own unique characters. All of the side quests feel a little bit different. They don't feel like you're doing the same thing over and over again. So that's one positive. The story is very interesting, and the acting is really good. The graphics are really good, except for the fact that don't bother with... They announced that they had this... up to 120 frames with ray tracing mode. Don't waste your time with it. Because when you turn that on, the reason they call it up to 120 frames per second is because it's unlocked frame rate. And what it does is it causes screen tearing out the ass. It's the worst screen tearing I've seen since the 360 PS3 generation. I turned that mode on, And I walked up the escalator I was on, and I turned around, and it was just tear, 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 and I turned the other way, tear, 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 and I'm like, nope, I'm going back to performance mode. And so I switched back to performance, which performance mode is like 1400p at 60 frames per second, and it has some limited ray tracing in it. Uh, I the, I don't. I've seen the game on PC as well. It's not that graphically impressive of a game in any respect, anyway. So, all I care about is smooth, steady frame rate. I don't really care about the ray tracing or any of that stuff. The game is not as graphically impressive as looking at, Horizon Forbidden West or I mean, frankly, I think even Tiny Tina looks better than Ghostwire Tokyo in a lot of respects. Uh, so it's not exactly a graphical winner, and I will tell you this: the biggest issue with Ghostwire Tokyo is that you will get so bored of the combat, because with the exception of boss fights, you're basically fighting the same 4 or 5 types of ghosts or whatever the hell they are over and over again, and you have like 3 different types of magic attack, or you've got wind, water, and fire magic attacks, and you have a bow and arrow, and that's it. And you can expand those, but some enemies are weaker to different types of magic than other types, and blah blah blah. So a lot of it boils down to kind of a rock paper scissors type thing. Plays like a first person shooter, but you have to deal with the fact that every time you fire, you're doing this stupid hand shit when you're casting these spells, and as you level up, you can fire spells faster, and you get more powerful spells. Like the fire spell will damn near kill everything with one hit, and then you can expand it to where when you hit the first target, your shot goes through it and hits whatever's behind it, or you can set it to where it'll blow up and do an area effect damage thing. But when you first get the fire spell, you're only able to hold 5 shots of it at a time. And you find these little statues all over the map that when you pray to those statues, it'll increase how many shots you can hold for each type of magic. So I've found mostly wind boosters that increase how many wind shots I can fire. I've only found one for the fire spell. I would like to get up to at least having 20, but I don't think there's that many in the game. I think they intentionally limit how many shots of the fire you can carry at one time. It's basically your bazooka of the game. But the combat is really repetitive, but the quests are fun and the story is fun. So it's definitely not a 7 out of 7. I'd probably say it's somewhere in the range of a 5 to a 5.5. But, I'm one of those guys that love big open maps and love to explore and find hidden areas and find hidden loot and all that kind of stuff. So it is up my alley of the type of things I play. I'm just not a big fan of the combat because of all this shit. And I would rather just be able to go, and I can do that with the wind spell because I've maxed out the speed of your shooting. But there's other things that still do that. Like you can weaken an enemy to where they're stunned, and then you can rip their ghost core out or whatever. And when you do that, he'll do this thing where it looks like Wonder Woman's lasso. So he does this thing where he's tying this yellow beam of light around his fingers, and then he tosses it, and then he's pulling the core out. That takes a long time, but you can upgrade it to where it takes less time. But there's still, even when you're speeding all these up, you still feel a slight delay in when you want to attack and when it actually happens because of the animation involved in pulling these attacks off. And so, but some of the ghosts are very dodgy, particularly this one that actually looks like a sheet ghost. It looks like somebody took a balloon, put a sheet over it, tied a knot around the bottom of the balloon, drew a face on it. It looks like those kind of ghost decorations that you'd see in people's yards during Halloween. It can hit you with these massive fire attacks, and it's really annoying because it laughs whenever it gets close to you. And they can dodge, really zip back and forth like this. So you can have them locked on, but then you do your little thing, and by the time the shot actually fires off, they've moved to the right and you miss. So it can actually negatively affect the gameplay with that one particular enemy, not so much with the others. So I went off on a tangent there, but 5 out of 7. Are you looking forward to Gotham Knights? Not so far, not from the footage that I've seen of it. 7th, long time no see. How are you? I'm doing all right. What's a good name for an all-female superhero team? They're all adults, by the way, between the ages of 20 and 25. I don't know. I don't write comic books. I don't even read comic books anymore. And I didn't read that many of the female-centric comics when I was a kid. I read Wonder Woman, and that was about it. Beat Elden Ring twice. Really good game. I haven't even started it yet. I'm praying that the Borderlands movie doesn't suck. What do you think? I haven't seen or heard anything about it, so I have no idea. My suspicion is that it will not be good. Can't rain all the time. Yeah. This is my rip-off of the Misfits, but it's the Crow shirt. What do you think PS Plus tiers, or I guess you meant what do I think about PS Plus tiers? Sony can't afford day one releases, but maybe like 1 or 2, I think they should do maybe smaller titles. Look, you know me. I'm the physical release guy. I'm the buy physical guy. I'm not a big fan of Game Pass, and I'm not going to be a big... I've never had a PlayStation Now account. I tested it when it was in beta and thought that the streaming was ass, and so I never subscribed to it. I have never had PS Now. So imagine, what I think of this PlayStation Plus service. I'm not all that impressed by it either. So I'm not really the person to be asking about it. I already have... I go into Game Pass having reservations about it because I prefer physical releases. And I'm the same way when it comes to Sony. That being said, I have been seeing a lot of videos on YouTube and discussions on Twitter of this is really anti-consumer from Sony. They're going to be charging you $18 a month to play demos. And usually the person that's saying this, that's way too much money to just be playing demos. Meanwhile, in almost every case, the person who is saying this has a Patreon account with tiers that are in excess of $15 a month, some of them going as high as $50 a month or more, just to get a personal phone call with them or a postcard, etc., etc. I don't care which side you're on. I don't care if you're an Xbox fanboy, Sony fanboy. If you're talking about the price value of Game Pass or the price value of PS Plus and saying that it's not consumer friendly and it's too expensive and whatnot, which I agree with both because digital distribution, whether you understand it or not, is not consumer friendly. It's all about protecting and revenue for the company. It doesn't have the best interests of the consumer in mind. But if you're talking that kind of stuff, while you have a Patreon with tiers that are in excess of the monthly charge of either of those services, you really need to sit down and shut up. Enough said. I have a Patreon, but it has no supporters. I mostly use it to pay to the people that I'm a patron for, which amounts to about $10 to $15 a month of you know. But even when my Patreon did have a decent number of patrons on it, all I ever marked on there was $1 a month. You know, I didn't really have tiers. It was just donate $1 a month. Because my goal at the time was to get my Patreon up to 500 members donating $1 a month, and that'd be $500 a month where I could literally buy anything that I wanted to review. If a new piece of hardware came out, I could buy it and review it. If such and such if that had been the way things worked out when the Steam Deck came out, I could have bought a Steam Deck and reviewed it. That was what it was supposed to be for. But it never happened. But I never had tiers like that. You know, and I don't have a problem with them offering tiers where you get, custom stuff and various things and listed in the credits of the video and whatnot. But when you're talking about monthly charges of services and whether they're consumer friendly or not, and whether you're getting the value out of your monthly fee, but you're charging $50 a month so that when you're paying $50 a month, you get like a custom postcard in the mail. Kiss my ass. You're a hypocrite and you need to shut up. Do you really think the Mad Max game could get a sequel? I'd love for it to. Don't know if it'll actually happen, but I'd love for it to. Is the Ratchet and Clank movie worth watching? I haven't watched it all the way through. And when I did start to watch it, it just felt like they had taken all the cutscenes from the game and put them together in a movie. I never actually finished watching it, so I don't know if ultimately it's any good or not. I did watch the Heavenly Sword movie that they made all the way through, and that was boring as hell. Video game based off of movie. Kevin Hart is going to play Roland. Of course it's going to suck. Yeah. From Tokes, how's it going? Sorry, Tokes, just got to your message there. I'm doing all right, Tokes. I'm doing all right. By the way, I changed my name from Evil Otaku to what you see now. Okay. Destin was the main one whining about PS Plus. Dude's just a professional Xbox fanboy. Well, I've seen others do it too. The main point is that not talking about specific deals like people that have signed in to Game Pass with their promotional things where they get 2 years for $1 a month, but just regular monthly fees. I'm currently paying after taxes about $16 a month for Game Pass. So if you take $16 a month times 12, I'm paying over $160 a year for Game Pass. A year of the new PlayStation Plus is $120. It's cheaper. It's $2 more if you're paying monthly, but if you were to buy a year of it in advance, it's cheaper. Because currently, Game Pass doesn't have a buy a year of it. I think as of right now, there's still Xbox Live Gold for $60 a month, but it doesn't include Game Pass Ultimate. But, both of them have give and takes. Both of them have different pricing strategies. But both of them ultimately are a game rental service where you can download a game and play it as much as you want as long as it's still licensed and on the platform. It's just that if PlayStation Plus's service launches with the number of games they say they're going to have significantly more games available than what Game Pass offers. PlayStation Now already has more games on it than what is on Game Pass. I'm just saying. But I don't care for either one of them because I like to have the physical game in my hand. This is the new time for now, Nick. 12 to 3 Central Time until things calm down at my job, which may not be until June. What's Tiny Tina out of 7? Probably a 6. It's a fun game. And it has a lot of game. I've beat the game, but I still have entire maps that I haven't even done yet. And side quests. And basically their challenge mode, which I've... It's almost like their take on the Chalice dungeons in a certain way. And I've barely played some of that. I've played it for maybe 30 minutes just to get a feel for what it was. So, and I haven't played it co-op with anybody at all yet, as of yet. If you had to play and finish one of these games again, which would it be? Hannah Montana or Life of Black Tiger? I never actually finished Life of Black Tiger. I couldn't take it. I had to stop. So I guess it would have to be, by default, Hannah Montana. I guess. That's just the way it would have to be. So, what else has been going on? Let's see. Like I said, me and Eighth went to see the Batman. Here's my issues with the Batman. I understand what they were trying to do, which was trying to focus more on the world's greatest detective type thing. And so they tried to basically turn it into a movie like Seven or Silence of the Lambs, interspersed with a few action scenes to remind you that this is still Batman. But the movie is too damn long. It's too damn long. The first time I watched it, everything that I was watching was new, so I didn't pay attention to it as much. But when I went and rewatched it on HBO Max, Eighth fell asleep, and I was struggling because there's so many sequences where it's just long sequences of people talking and not a whole lot happening. And the biggest issue I have with it is the whole Catwoman side plot. Because it doesn't add that much to the story at all. For those of you who haven't seen it, I'm not trying to get too spoiler heavy, but Catwoman is bisexual and she has a girlfriend, a live-in girlfriend. That live-in girlfriend disappears. She had overheard a conversation she wasn't supposed to hear. And so Batman, who's supposed to be focusing on the whole deal with the Riddler, gets sidetracked by Catwoman to find out what happened to her girlfriend. And big surprise, her girlfriend was killed by the mob. And they find her body in the trunk of a dude's car. And one of the very next scenes that you see of Catwoman, after her girlfriend is dead, there's no sobbing, there's no crying, there's no lamenting the loss of her girlfriend, none of that. And then in one of the very next scenes you see her in, she's sucking face with Batman. Like it never happened. And the resolution of her interaction with it is that she saves his life during the final big battle that doesn't even have the Riddler in it, because the Riddler's already been arrested. She saves him during the final big battle because he falls off the side of a platform and he's already been shot and wounded, so he doesn't have the strength to pull himself back up on the platform, and she helps pull him back up on the platform. He doesn't have all of his more advanced grappling stuff. He does have a grappling hook, but he doesn't really use it that much to traverse the way, say, Nolan's Batman did, or Keaton, or what have you. So he's on this platform. He can't really use his Gatling thing to whip him around to another spot. He's just kind of stuck there, and she lifts him up. And then at the end of it, she tries to get him to go away with her. He won't leave Gotham, and she realizes that he's too much in love with the idea of saving Gotham to be in love with her, and she leaves. And so you have that scene is a perfect example of what's wrong with this movie. You had this long, protracted scene from multiple camera shots of them driving together through a cemetery on motorcycles. And this scene goes on and on and on before they finally part ways. And so the very last shot of Batman that you see is him on his motorcycle driving back towards Gotham with the bat signal in the sky. But that's the big problem with the movie is editing. They let the camera linger on shots for too long. And there's subplots in it that don't really add anything to the overall story. And so when you watch it the first time, you think, hey, this is a pretty good Batman movie, although the third act kind of falls apart a little bit because of the fact that they put their main villain in jail before the big climactic battle at the end of the film. But then you watch it a second time and you find yourself, checking the time on your phone. And you find yourself checking your Twitter feed because there's nothing going on screen. And, you can say what you want about the Nolan films. You didn't get bored watching the Nolan films. You get bored watching this one a second time. It's not as good on repeat viewing. Let's see here. Do you think Elon Musk buying Twitter is the equivalent of a gambling addicted person buying a casino? No, because I don't really think that Elon Musk is addicted to Twitter. I think he's just a troll that likes to mess with people. Hence why after he bought Twitter, he posted a tweet saying, "Next, I'm going to buy Coca-Cola and put cocaine back in." He likes to mess with people. He's a troll. I think what you said, Clean Frame, would be more true had when Trump lost the election, if he had retaliated by buying Twitter, which he didn't have the money to do, but if he had bought Twitter, then that would be an example of someone addicted buying their addiction. I'm not a fan of Elon Musk one way or the other. I don't hate him. I don't like him. Mainly because everyone talks about all this revolutionary technology that he's brought to the world to make the world a better place, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, the biggest component of that, Tesla cars, are too expensive for the average human to afford. So how is it really going to solve any problems if the average middle-class person can't afford to buy even their cheapest model of car? How can it change the world with his futuristic housing that he's building, these pod-based housing that he's building out here in Texas for employees that move here to work at his Tesla plant, if it's priced out of the range of most people to be able to afford? My car, my Challenger, was $22,000. That's about as much as I could possibly afford on a car. Is about 22 to 25 grand. The cheapest Tesla is like 40 grand. Almost twice what I could afford. So If the car is too expensive for the majority of the population to purchase one, how much help is it really going to be to the environment? And on top of that, considering the fact that the majority of electricity out there is still generated by coal plants, how much is electric cars going to help the environment? These are just common sense questions. This isn't a left versus right thing. These are just common sense questions. We could eliminate a massive amount of pollution by getting rid of all those coal plants and replacing them with safe nuclear plants that have zero, next to zero air emissions. But we're not going to do that because everyone's afraid of a Chernobyl. I grew up a few miles down the road from a nuclear plant outside of Chattanooga in Soddy Daisy, called the Sequoia Nuclear Facility. Never had a meltdown. It's been there for 40 plus years, like 40 years. Still works just fine. Has multiple fail safes to prevent anything from happening there. But people are so convinced that nuclear is a bad thing because of Chernobyl and because of Fukushima that they're not willing to do it. Well, for one thing, don't build a plant on the cheap. Don't have people that are overworked and undertrained on how to operate it and have subpar training procedures and emergency procedures and backups and fail-safes. And don't build them on the water. Problem solved. Anyway, or that close to the water. You want to build them next to a lake? Fine. You want to build them next to a river? Okay. You can dam a river to stop pollution from spreading. You can't dam the ocean. Hi, Gaming Night. Please tell me you've been paying attention to the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard train wreck of a trial. I've watched some of it. Not a huge amount. Because it doesn't really have any effect on me regardless of the outcome. My interest in the outcome would be, one, to bring light to the fact that spousal abuse of the husband does exist, and two, I'm a fan of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. But now Depp has stated that, even if he was somehow able to repair his reputation to the point where Disney would want to work with him again, there's no amount of money that he would accept from them to make another Pirates movie. So I have no dog in the fight now because he's never going to come back as Captain Jack, so I don't really care that much. I've seen some of the funnier stuff, like one of Heard's attorneys objecting to the answer of his own question and stuff like that. But yeah, $10 from Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. Thank you, sir. Get a dollar bill or a $7 bill. There you go. Hello, 7th. How are you? Can't stay for long. Battery is almost dead. My USB port is messed up, so I can't charge it and watch at the same time. Well, that sucks, man. Sounds like you need to get to Best Buy and get you a new phone. I mean, my phone right here is just a bare bones Android Galaxy. It's like the bare bones Galaxy model. I've had it going on 5 years. Still works. Still charges up just fine. And I paid $100 for it at Best Buy. $100. Will it play all the latest phone games? No, because it doesn't have that kind of horsepower in it. But I don't play mobile games because mobile phone games mostly suck. What? I'm gonna buy a $1,000 phone so I can play Raid Shadow Legends? Kiss my ass. Depp has all the evidence. Why are the trial being dragged out? Because whenever you have a witness, the defense or the defendant has the right to counter cross-examine that witness. And so they are trying to use Depp's witnesses against him by trying to paint the idea of him being, a cocaine-rattled, insane, drunk wife beater. So, everything, they're trying to spin everything into a negative, while trying to downplay all the negative stuff that Heard has done. And another thing that they're doing is repeatedly trying to interrupt these witnesses under cross-examination to prevent them from saying anything else. An example of that would be the footage I saw yesterday of Heard's people cross-examining Depp's accountant or business manager or whatever he was. And it was all about how Heard had not donated that $3.5 million to the charities that she said she was going to. And he kept trying to elaborate on this letter that he had written where he had described $100,000 that they sent to that charity on behalf of Heard as the first payment towards that $3.5 million. And he was trying to say, but further payments never happened. At the time that I wrote this, I was expecting there to be more payments, but more payments never happened. And they kept cutting him off and not letting him say that. And just saying, just answer the question, did you send this letter? Is this your letter? They didn't want it pointed out that the letter is pointless because she never sent more than $100,000 and kept the rest of the money. I don't know that I believe Johnny when he says there's no amount of money Disney could pay him, because all of this, even if he wins, so much of that $50 million is going to go towards costs of the trial and everything, and the debts that he already had. I don't think $50 million, and a lot of that debt caused by him spending it all away on Amber. I don't think that $50 million is going to right his ship. So, if Disney came to him and said, we'll pay you $100 million to make another Pirates movie, which wouldn't happen. But if they did, he'd be an idiot not to take it. I was following it for the same reasons, along the same principle of male rape. Yeah? I don't play trash mobile games. I just use my phone as a TV. Amber Heard had literally shit the bed very big. Yes. Yes, and now, despite them spending so much time on the defense saying that it never happened and it was a dog, they now have testimony saying that she admitted to it to one of his security guards and described it as a practical joke that went too far. Who was the practical joke meant for? Oh, ha, ha, my wife, took a big shit on my side of the bed. Oh, you got me there. I mean, you can just look at the expressions on her face during the trial and see the dishonesty in her, because she is trying in every instance that she thinks the camera is focused on her as looking like it's bullshit. Because the minute she thinks the camera's not on her, she's smirking or she's bitching at her attorneys or what have you. But the minute that camera's focused back on her, it's obvious. It is so painfully obvious. Four Horsemen, I kind of agree with that. Losers should have to pay the attorney fees. I agree. Wholeheartedly, I agree. Yep. Let's see, what else has been going on with me since we ain't getting that many questions? I finally saw the Uncharted movie. It hit on demand a couple days ago, and I watched it, start to finish. I did not hate the movie. I do agree that in a lot of Holland's performance, there's still a little too much of his Peter Parker mixed in there, which I think the director steered him in that direction, thinking that fans of his Spider-Man movies would come to see Uncharted. But what I also know is that Nolan North acted as one of his acting coaches on this film to get him in the mindset of who Nathan Drake was as a character, as a person. And you see little bits and pieces of it throughout the whole film, but you don't really feel like he's Nathan Drake until the last mid-credit scene. And that's the scene you've seen on YouTube where he's wearing the red and white t-shirt and Sully comes in and he's wearing a Hawaiian shirt and he has a mustache. That scene. When you watch that scene, that feels like Drake. He doesn't really feel like Drake except for little snips here and there throughout the movie. And then you get to that ending scene, which feels like it's setting up a movie version of Uncharted 1. And then he feels like Drake. But his voice is still too high. His voice is still too high. He still sounds like a kid when he talks. And that's part of the reason why I have trouble accepting him as Drake. The Nolan North cameo was fun. That was fun. And the set pieces, for the most part, feel like something you would see in an Uncharted game. I could totally see the whole 2 pirate ships being airlifted out. I could totally see that. But I feel like in the tone of it, they borrowed too much from Uncharted 4 because there's no supernatural elements here. There's no coffin that turns people into zombies. There's no purple Hulks that are wearing Yeti costumes. There's no magic water that causes you to see demons. None of that is in this. It's like Uncharted 4. It's a straight up treasure hunt, and that's it. You know, the setup for the big climactic helicopter chase with the 2 pirate ships could just as well have been from the Goonies when they find One-Eyed Willie's pirate ship. It felt like that. They don't use the Uncharted theme enough, Nate's theme. They use it for like a couple of seconds, a couple of times in the movie, and then they use some of it during the closing credits of it. But they don't. It's not the main theme of the movie. They've created their own theme, which is this really generic, feels like it's trying to sound almost like an Indiana Jones theme, but from a low-budget, direct-to-video Indiana Jones ripoff movie. Like the theme music for King Solomon's Mines, if you've ever seen King Solomon's Mines, which was an Indiana Jones clone, and its sequel, Alan Quatermain and the Lost City of Gold. You know, it has a rather iconic theme song, but it's obvious that they were going for that Indiana Jones feel with it, and that's what this movie's main theme sounds like. When they already had a great theme right there that they could have used, and they didn't take advantage of it. So, honestly, my biggest complaint about the Uncharted movie is not Mark Wahlberg, because it was the same thing with Mark Wahlberg. He starts to seem more and more like Sully as the movie goes on, and then when you see him in that last scene, aside from the fact that he's carrying a cat in his backpack, he's Sully. He's Sully. He's a fair facsimile of the video game character. But it doesn't happen until that last mid-credit scene. My biggest complaint with Uncharted is that way too much of it is done with digital effects and wire work. Almost all of the biggest stunts are not practical stunts, but are instead green screen with wires. So it feels less like Raiders of the Lost Ark and more like The Mummy or Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. as far as its stunt work is concerned. If it did make its money back, it was a financial success. It wasn't $1 billion success, but it made enough money to where, I could see them continuing it as a franchise. If they're going to make another one, more practical effects. Get it in the hands of a director who knows how to do practical stunts. Get real stuntmen in there, not putting the actual actors on wires and green screening them and all that kind of garbage. Let's do real practical stunts as much as can be done safely, because you didn't do it in this one. But I didn't hate it. I liked it about as much as watching The Mummy or The Mummy 2. Sometimes when someone loses a case, they still won't pay the money they owe. Yeah. I don't watch Saturday Night Live, but I'll watch a clip if they spoof the Johnny Depp trial. I'm assuming they will at some point. I also love the footage of her being booed as she enters and leaves the courthouse. Yeah. Nobody likes this woman. Nobody likes her. I mean, she even beat up her own sister. I don't think Tom has the body build or tone for it. Holland could still be in his 40s and still need to show his ID when buying beer. Actually, if you watch Uncharted, he got ripped for this movie even more than he was in the Spider-Man films. I mean, he's still a thinner framed person, but he really bulked up for this movie. He really did. He still looks like a kid. They would have done well for him to have like a 5 o'clock shadow in some of the scenes, so it put some age on him. I think the main thing with him is not his build and it's not his face, it's the pitch of his voice. He has a kid-pitched voice. It's like puberty hit everything except his vocal cords. He still sounds like he's 15. And to be honest with you, other actors have been that way. Josh Brolin. Everyone loves Josh Brolin. Go back and watch him in The Goonies. And listen to what his voice sounded like then versus what his voice sounds like now. And he was like 18 or 20 or something when he made The Goonies. He was, he was not like 12 like the rest of the kids in that film. But his voice was way up here, and now it's way down here. He was another actor who, for some reason, his voice was a late bloomer compared to the rest of him. Me, when I hit like 14 or 15 years old, my voice was this deep, and it's been this deep ever since. I first hit puberty at like 12, and my voice got about as deep as what Eighth's voice is. And then by the time I was 16, I sounded like this. So, for whatever reason, the voice change for actors like Holland and Josh Brolin, it occurs later in life. I don't know why. I don't know what the science is behind that. Do you think God of War Ragnarok will release this year? I suspect it could. We'll see, but I suspect it could. That may be the big announcement that Corey Barlog was making in that recent video he did from the Sony Santa Monica studios. That could have been what he was teasing in that. I don't know. I can't stand wire work and green screen. I'm always going to vote for practical over digital. Same. I wonder why they didn't ask Nathan Fillion to star in the film, especially when that fan film he did was so well received. Because he's not a big name, and he's an older gentleman, so they didn't think they'd be able to get 3 movies out of him. Thoughts on Beautiful Joe? I never really got that big into Beautiful Joe. I had it on PS2, but I just didn't care for the gameplay that much. And I mean, you think about it now. That's not one that you hear that much about anymore. It kind of fell off the radar of most gaming. I mean, I think hasn't he shown up as a character in some other things? Like, wasn't he in? Was I remember him showing up as a cameo character and other stuff, but I can't remember what it was now. But his own series didn't really go anywhere. He got what 2 or 3 games out of it. I should ask this in June, but what's your early contender for game of the year? Wow. Uh well, I still haven't played Horizon Forbidden West at all because I told myself that I wasn't going to play Forbidden West until I'd actually finished the first game, which I never did. And I started towards that goal. I put about 5 hours into the first Horizon game, and then I got distracted by something new that came out, and I didn't finish it. So I still haven't played Forbidden West. I've so far for this year, the only big AAA releases that I've completed really is Tiny Tina's Wonderland. I don't think I've actually beat all the way through any of the other AAA releases that have come down the pipe that I can recall. I think Tiny Tina is the only one that I've played all the way through it. So too soon, very too soon to tell. Usually I don't know. Usually I'm not going to know what my game of the year is until right around when the Game Awards are about to happen. Because by then I've played everything that's going to come out, and I can choose what my game of the year is. Yeah, he was in. I knew he was in some fighting games, but I couldn't remember what they were. I couldn't remember if he was in that or if he had shown up in one of the Marvel vs. Capcom games, or if maybe he had been a selectable character in one of the Smash games. Maybe I couldn't remember. I just remember he did show up in something else. Oh, he was in Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Okay. What do you think Cory Barlog is working on a new IP? He's not working on God of War Ragnarok. He may be. It may be that they went back to that sci-fi game that got canceled before they rebooted God of War. I don't know. Who can say? He hasn't really talked about it much. Thoughts on Battlefield Earth? I remember it being a terrible movie. Well, your memory is intact because it is a terrible movie. It's a terrible movie, and no matter what a Scientologist might tell you, it is not a good book. It's not a good book. You need to finish BDZ before Forbidden West so you'll not know what's going on. There's a lot of references. That's what I figured. I'll go back to it eventually, I haven't been playing a lot because, I've been working so much. It's not just on the weekends. I'm putting in overtime every day. I'm working like a 12-hour shift every day. And so by the time I get off work, and true, I'm not a bricklayer or a ditch digger or a ditch digger. I'm not a ditch digger. People are going to be calling me ditch digger now for the rest of my life. I'm not a ditch digger. I'm not a manual labor person. I sit at this laptop for 12 hours a day doing computer work. But by the time I've sat here for 12 hours a day, I'm exhausted. And so when I go into the room, I don't feel like exercising. I don't feel like working out. I just lay down and lay back in my recliner. I don't even feel like playing video games. I just feel like staring at the screen, eating my dinner, and going to sleep. And So, and that's also why there haven't been new game reviews, because I haven't been playing games enough to review them. And because I don't have the energy, once I'm done sitting in this chair for 12 hours, to sit in it for another 2 hours to put a video together. And this happens around this time every year when busy season hits. It just wears my ass out. I get completely burnt up from both ends. And yeah, it burns me out every time. I have some paid time off that's coming in May, but even then, that's not vacation time because it's time for me to study for my certification exam that I'm taking for potentially moving into another position. But before I can move into that other position, I have to get certified in uh, this particular software environment, and so I have to study for. They're letting me take a couple of days off in May to cram to take the exam, which isn't really gonna. Even if I get that job, it's really not going to improve my life much, because yeah, I might be. It could potentially be upwards of like a $20,000 a year raise, but that would also push me into a higher tax bracket, which means more of that will go towards taxes than I'm used to. So it won't really amount to that much more money in my bank every month. So, is what it is. What do you from the Wolverine game coming Insomniac? I don't really think that much about it one way or the other because all we've seen is a cinematic teaser. When they show actual gameplay, then I'll have more to say about it. How do I see that movie you were in? It's not been made available commercially yet. Those of us who backed the movie on Kickstarter are going to be getting a digital code to be able to watch it on Vimeo this coming week. So that'll actually be the first time that I've gotten to watch it. I didn't get to go to the premiere. I was invited to the premiere, but I didn't get to go. So we'll be able to see it next week. It probably won't be available. We don't really know when it's going to be available on like a streaming service. You may be able to buy it on demand, like on Amazon Prime or something, in a couple of months. Probably around the same time that the Blu-ray comes out, which the Blu-ray is supposed to be out sometime in the summer. But again, I'm only in it for like maybe 2 minutes of screen time tops. I have 2 cameos in the film. I have one cameo where I show up in a commercial that's on the TV that they're watching. They're sitting in a living room and a commercial comes on the TV, and it's for an American Pickers / Pawn Stars type of reality show, and I'm the star of it, and I'm like the retro the redneck American picker guy, and it's a commercial for my TV show, and that comes on, and then that sets up me showing up later on in a dream sequence of 8-Bit Eric's character in the movie. And so I just kind of show up in this dream sequence he's having, and there is something that is being bestowed upon him in this dream sequence, and I'm just kind of there, and I'm not really sure why I'm there, because I'm like this reality TV star, and all of a sudden I'm in this weird environment I've never been in before, and I am both in awe and disgusted by the fact that he is having this honor bestowed upon him, and those are my 2 scenes. So I'm my main scene is this this kind of surreal, who the hell is this guy and what is he doing here scene, and it's set up by a cameo of a commercial. And when you watch that commercial, if you look really close, it was filmed at a neighbor's garage. So if you look really close, you in that scene, sitting in the background, you'll see Eighth sitting behind a table with his feet propped up and his hat pulled down like this, and he's acting like he's asleep. So you'll get to see Eighth in a movie for like just a couple seconds if you look close. That being said, if you decide you want to purchase that movie, because I don't know when it'll be on streaming services. If you decide you want to purchase that movie, purchase it because you want to watch a buddy road comedy that's kind of in the same tone as that Fanboys movie that came out several years ago, where they're on a road trip to break into Skywalker Ranch to see the prequel movie before their friend dies, that kind of thing. It's got that kind of general feel to it. It's not like watching the Angry Video Game Nerd movie. It's not like that at all. It's more like a 90s to early 2000s road comedy inspired film. Watch it because of that, not because of the 2 minutes that I'm going to be in it. I haven't been playing a lot either. I don't think I will become enthused about gaming till I find a PS5. I'm still on the PS3. Wow. Ooh. Eesh. Still having a PS3, I can say that even going back to PS3 once I'd been on PS4 for a couple of years wasn't easy. Going from PS5 to PS3, and that's another thing that, it doesn't, I'm not all that enthused about PlayStation Plus because, they've said basically it's not a new service. They're just combining PlayStation Plus and PS Now. That's really all it is. And all of the PS3 games are streaming only, and they have no enhancements to them. You're not getting a 60 frames per second upgrade with these PS3 games. They're still running at their same original frame rate and resolution. And some of the frame rates on some of those PS3 games, oh boy. I don't consider what Game Pass and Microsoft does as true backwards compatibility. True backwards compatibility is I take this disc and I put it in my PS5 and it loads it off the disc and plays it off the disc. That's backwards compatibility. What they're doing is not. What they're doing is you put the disc in the system, it recognizes it for what it is, and then it downloads a remastered version of the game, a very weakly remastered version of the game, onto your system so you can play it. Which means, some of them will have better resolution, better frame rate. Not all of them, some of them. And Sony's not even going to do that with PS3 as of right now. You're just all you're doing is they are streaming that game from a rack of PS3s. And so you're actually getting worse performance because you're having to deal with the potential lag of streaming the game. But you're not getting better resolution, you're not getting better frame rate, better textures, better nothing. It's the PS3 version of the game with potential streaming lag thrown on top of it. That doesn't interest me at all. Especially when I still have multiple working PS3s in my house and I can just come in here, hook up my PS3, play the game if I so desired. Speaking of which, my final payment was paid on my Polymega, so now it's just a matter of time for how long it's going to take them to actually ship me one. It's my understanding that I'm supposed to get it sometime in the second half of this year. So sometime from July onward, I should be getting my Polymega. I don't expect for it to show up until January or not January, November or December is when I expect it to show up. I would like it to be sooner than that, but I don't expect it to show up any sooner than that. You never know. Polymega may surprise me, but I doubt it. But I'm not going to buy their light gun or their N64 expansion that they've announced until I get what I've already ordered in my hands and can testify to the quality of the build. I want to see how good their controllers feel, how good the games play, etc., before I buy anything else from them. I'm 26 and I work at Amazon, really trying to get into IT or something. I want to sit down for a change. Well, it's not all it's cracked up to be, because sitting for that many hours a day can cause you all sorts of health problems. Digestive problems, back problems, leg problems, circulation problems, muscle atrophy. The list goes on and on. It ain't all it's cracked up to be. It would be better to have a mix of both. So, if I was healthy enough to do it, a better job for me to be in would be a field analyst, someone who drives from location to location, and has to carry PCs in and set PCs up, like a desktop support kind of guy. But the problem there is, of course, 19-year-old son, single dad. I can't be going on road trips. And I wouldn't be allowed to bring him with me. So I can't do the field service tech thing anymore. I used to do it back when he was a baby, so he wasn't going to notice whether I was there or not. When he was an infant, like, under a year old. I did it during that period of his life. Then when he got to be a year old and he would notice whether I was there or not, that's when I stopped doing that kind of work, and I haven't done it since. Was your tax I got my tax return way back, and it wasn't super. It was like $780, I think, something like that. Went towards bills. And I got my annual bonus, and all that, almost all of that went towards bills. One chunk of it went towards me getting the Polymega. One chunk of it went towards 8th getting the virtual reality helmet that he wanted, and the rest of it was thrown onto bills. Which my annual bonus, before taxes, ranges between $7,000 to $8,000. I get it every year, but it depends on whether I met my performance goals and whether the company met their financial goals. And the higher the company did over what their expected goals were, the better the bonus is. And so this year, before taxes, it was a little over $8,000. And then after taxes, it was a little over $6,000. So, So bought him that helmet, bought me Polymega. The rest of it went on bills, because I'm trying to eliminate my bills, get all of my debts gone to where the only debt that I actually have under me is my student loan debt, so that I can then start saving my bonuses for a down payment on an actual owned house. Because this year has taught me that I only have a certain amount of time left before renting this home is going to be too expensive for me to afford. My rent went up by $165 a month this year. First time that's happened since I moved here. Every year since I moved here, my rent has gone up like somewhere between $30 to $50 a month. This year, all of a sudden, $165 a month. And if it keeps accelerating at that rate, like if every year my rent's going to go up like $200 a month, eventually that's going to get to the point where I can't sustain that anymore. And I'll have to either move out to an area where the housing is cheaper, like out in the sticks somewhere, or which I'm already 30-something miles away from the city. But I'm going to have to move even further out into the sticks, or I'm going to have a down payment built up and purchase my own home, which still, my mortgage payments will be less than what I'd be paying in rent. But then, Texas has just ungodly property tax on homes. They don't charge property tax annually on cars like they did in North Carolina, but they do charge it on homes. And it can get up into the thousands per year. So what would basically happen is that I get enough for a down payment on a home, I buy a home, and then every year after that, my bonus would have to cover the property taxes on the house every year. So you still haven't gotten your Polymega, didn't you? Yeah, no, well, the first time I ordered it, it got canceled because they didn't. There was something went on with Walmart, and I pre-ordered it through Walmart, and Walmart was really messing with my finances because they kept recharging me for the pre-order like every week. You know, they charged me for it. It'd go, and so that money would disappear from my account, and then the money would show back up in my account, and then the next week it would happen again. So it was causing my bills to bounce, or some of my bills to bounce because of the timing. And so I had to cancel that so that would stop. And then I pre-ordered it back in earlier in the year when I found out how big my bonus was going to be. But because of manufacturing and shipping challenges still going on due to the virus, I'm not going to get my unit until, according to the website, sometime in the second half of this year. So we'll see. We'll see what actually happens. What's the actual difference between a mortgage and rent? Well, with a mortgage, mortgages tend to be cheaper payments than rent payments. For one thing, you know, for example, my house in North Carolina, my mortgage payment was only $750 a month, whereas if I had rented a house of that size, it would have been about $1,000, $1,100 a month. Additionally, when you have a mortgage, you're actually building equity into your purchase. So over time, as you're paying for this mortgage, you know, your equity in the house is increasing to where if you chose to sell it after you paid the mortgage off, what you would get for it would be, preferably, as long as you've taken care of it and the market hasn't crashed, a good chunk more than what you bought it for. And you don't get that with rent because you don't own the house. So, there you go. Oh, and we're well past the first hour. I forgot about that. And y'all didn't even remind me this time. 1 hour remaining. No, that was the wrong one. I was supposed to play this one. I'm out of practice, guys. I apologize. There you go. We are an hour and a half into this, so there's actually 90 minutes remaining. We've had $15 donated, so we are $35 away from the 1 hour extension. So do please keep the questions coming so I have more to talk about, because I'm starting to get caught up with everything that's happened since the last time you saw me. Haven't really bought a whole lot. You know, I bought Ghostwire, I bought Tiny Tina. Me and Eighth talked about buying the new Lego Star Wars game, but then we decided against it because we just figured that once it got closer to Christmas, that game was going to be $19. So what'd be the point of paying 60 for it now? So we didn't buy that. As far as retro games, of course, I got this from Retro Game Treasure. This time, Retro Game Treasure sent me 3 games. They sent me this one. They sent me a still sealed PS1 game that's called Shooter something or other. It's like a 3D space shooter thing that I'd never heard of and is not a valuable game. It's worth like $10. And then they sent me, for PS2, they sent me Robin Hood Defender of the Crown, which is just a reskinning of Defender of the Crown with a Robin Hood theme, which I've never played. I never played that on PC or PS2. So those are the 3 I got. I've also picked up a few additional NES commons. I picked up Karate Champ and Where in Time is Carmen Sandiego, and a couple of others. Mostly sports games like ice hockey and Pebble Beach, Bandai Golf Challenge, Pebble Beach, just ones that I don't really care about, but ones that I need to fill out the collection. Haven't really made any other big purchases because I'm trying to pay. My focus right now is paying bills. I couldn't even tell you if there's any other big releases coming anytime soon to Xbox or PS5, because I'm not really paying that much attention to that right now. You should buy Mike Tyson on pay-per-view. I'd watch it. No, that's kind of out of left field. I don't watch boxing, but I do have Mike Tyson on NES. Do you have a favorite ending of a video game? Gosh. Not off the top of my head, no. It would have to be kind of split up by genre and system, really. Because I can't really think of any one particular ending that just really stood out to me of, wow, what a completely satisfying ending. I'm glad I played this game all the way through so I could see that. I can't think of one. Can't think of one. I don't really care tremendously that much about endings. It's more about the experience itself anyway when it comes to games. Hey, Smithy, how's it going? You look like you've lost some weight. I've lost like 2 pounds since you last saw me. About 2 pounds. Not a tremendous amount. Part of it is that, I shaved a lot of the thick, bushy beard off. So that's probably part of what you're picking up on. When's the Wolverine game coming out? They haven't said. We don't know when it could be 2024. We wouldn't know because they haven't said. They haven't shown gameplay. All they've shown is that cinematic pre-rendered teaser. I would assume that it's going to be an open world game, but who knows? It could be more like playing a classic Uncharted where it's just mission based and a linear story. We don't know yet. We don't know anything about it. Could be less like Spider-Man and more like Ratchet and Clank, where it's just, levels that you could potentially go back to. Yeah. Oh, one recommendation that I could make, if you really like weird stuff and you have Amazon Prime, check out this new show they have on there. It's called Outer Range. It's got Josh Brolin in it. And it's kind of a mix of, it feels kind of like watching that was it Kevin Costner show Yellowstone, mixed with Twin Peaks, because it's like small town like Twin Peaks. It's got the Western vibe like Yellowstone, but it also has these weird supernatural things going on, like finding this big smoke-filled hole in the center of one of their pastures, and if you fall into it, you land like several years in the future, and then if you dive back into it again, you wake up and you're back in your own time again. Just weird stuff like that going on. Mountains randomly disappearing in front of hundreds of people and then reappearing, that kind of thing. And none of it has been explained so far, like at all. So I've been really enjoying that show. As far as Moon Knight, I find Moon Knight interesting. My biggest complaint, though, is it's a show called Moon Knight. It's basically an origin story for Moon Knight. It's only 6 episodes long. They're already 5 episodes into it. There's only one left. And there's barely any Moon Knight in it. You know, he's only ever in his costume for a few seconds at a time, and then it's back to Oscar Isaac's out of costume again. He's barely been Moon Knight in a Moon Knight show. But it is interesting, and it has had some funny moments. Seventh, should I watch the movie CB4? Yes, CB4 is funny. It's one of the better Chris Rock movies, if you ask me. Do you remember the game Jersey Devil? No, never played it. Do you think they'll see more old Marvel movie characters in the MCU after Multiverse of Madness? Well, they're going to have to do something. Because with the exception of Chris Hemsworth, none of the original actors are coming back to reprise their characters. You know, Evans isn't coming back as Captain America. Chadwick is dead. Downey's not coming back to play Iron Man. You're going to get to see Ruffalo as Hulk maybe a couple more times. But for the most part, all of the classic characters from the MCU are done. Hemsworth is pretty much it. So they're going to have to start introducing characters that haven't been in there before, or they're going to, because I'm telling you right now, you know, I liked Shang-Chi or whatever, but him and Captain Marvel and Miss Marvel, you know, they're not going to carry a new Avengers movie. They're just not. Oh, and Doctor Strange, of course, is still around, but you know, those characters are not going to carry another Avengers film. It's not going to happen. So they need to start, bringing more in. But the thing of it is, a lot of the ones that they're bringing in are really minor characters from some of the darker side of the MCU, like Blade. You know, and that's why it kind of surprised me that they didn't take more of an active part in making sure that the Morbius movie was actually good, because Morbius is strongly tied to Blade in that he took part in the whole Midnight Suns storyline from back in the 90s. And so, you know, that would Blade, Morbius, Ghost Rider, the investigators that were investigating the Darkhold. You know, there were several characters, and new Ghost Rider, which was Danny Ketch, Vengeance, which was a guy who merged with another spirit of vengeance, but his vengeance initially was towards Ghost Rider himself. That whole Midnight Sun storyline, Morbius played a key role in that, and yet, because of the fact he was considered a Spider-Man character that Sony bought the rights to, we ended up with the movie that we got, which wasn't, it wasn't what I call a bad movie, but it wasn't a great movie either. it felt like one of the superhero movies that would have come out in the early 2000s, or in the late 90s, like like The Shadow, or Ben Affleck's Daredevil movie. It had that kind of feel and tone to it, where they didn't do enough of the world building and character building of Morbius to make you give a shit about him. He doesn't show a tremendous amount of emotion in that film. You don't by the end of the movie, you don't really feel like you've gotten to know him, and you don't really have a connection or attachment to him at all. Didn't they say 2023 for Wolverine? No, they said 2023 for Spider-Man 2. I don't think they've said for Wolverine yet. How do you think humanity will end? Or do you think we'll eventually just move to another planet? Well, I don't think we'd have to move to another planet for a long time. But if we were going to move to another planet, it'd have to be a heck of a lot farther out than Mars. Because the main reason that we'd want to leave Earth is when our star starts to die out. So basically, if we were going to leave, we would have to leave to a planet in a different solar system that was centered by another sun, because that's billions of years from now, when our sun is going to burn out, supposedly. So, we're not moving to Mars. Wouldn't do much to it. Wouldn't do much for us. We would literally have to be towards the point of Star Trek level space travel, where we had already established worlds and colonies outside of this solar system, well past this solar system, but still within the Milky Way galaxy. Because in Star Trek lore, the Milky Way galaxy is surrounded by this thing called the Great Barrier, and they've only breached it like once or twice. And the one time that they did it in the original series, everything outside of it was just this gassy void. You didn't see any other planets or anything. And then, of course, they changed it around in Star Trek V and made it where the Great Barrier wasn't on the outskirts of the Milky Way galaxy, but was in the center of it. And so they break through the Great Barrier, and that's where they found the planet that Spock's brother thought God lived on, Such a stupid movie. Seventh, I have one spot open on my YouTube Premium family. You can have it. I need your email. No, thank you. There's nothing on YouTube Premium that I watch, but I appreciate it. There's literally nothing on YouTube Premium that I want to watch. So, share that with another family member or a close friend. Don't waste it on me. Come on, camera. Refocus. Refocus, camera. I'm right here. Thank you. By old Marvel characters, I meant characters from pre-MCU. They're already teasing Professor X in the multiverse. Yeah. So bringing in the X-Men, bringing in the Fantastic Four, but then also more obscure characters. Like, I tell you who I'd like to see, but I highly doubt we're going to see him anytime soon. Sentinel. They could bring Sentinel in, and just what's going on with Sentinel himself could make up the plot of a new Avengers movie. Because good God. If you don't know who Sentinel is, you need to read up on him. He's basically Marvel's Superman, but he has like split personality disorder and other things wrong with him, to where he's literally a smoking gun. He's an unpredictable element. You never know if he's going to save the day or potentially destroy the Earth type character. So, I'd love to see them bring Sentinel in, and then just have a story for the Avengers that focuses on that. Because right now it kind of seems like they're leaning the next Avengers, if they're going to make another one, into the kind of a mixture of the whole multiverse slash Secret Wars thing. So we'll see, though. We'll see. Hard to tell right now because it's kind of all over the place. The movies that they're putting out right now don't really feel like they're building towards a cohesive storyline. Aside from the fact that you've now had 2 movies that deal with multiverse stuff. That's been pretty much it since Endgame. They don't really feel like they're building towards anything so far. Will they ever introduce Galactus and Silver Surfer? I would imagine that once the Fantastic Four get introduced, we'll start to see more about Silver Surfer and Galactus. Especially since Galactus was kind of sort of teased in the Eternals, because I think he's supposed to be of that same race as those big creatures that the Eternals work for or whatever. We'll see, though. We'll see. I really hated the Eternals. I did not like that movie at all. Shang-Chi, I liked it all right. Still didn't really feel that much like a Marvel movie, but I liked it. Eternals, no. That was a bad movie. And I'm willing to bet that after that, Marvel is not going to be tripping over themselves to hire any more indie artist auteur directors to direct their superhero films. Yes, Sentry, not Sentinel. Sentry. My bad. The blonde-haired guy that looks like Superman with a big S on his belt. Sentry. That's the guy I'm thinking of. I'd like to see him in the MCU. I have my doubts that it would ever happen, but we'll see. We'll see. Everyone's got to remember that at the time that the MCU started, Iron Man was not considered a major character in the Marvel Comics. He was a B-level character. And he ended up being one of the major characters of the whole thing. But when they first started out, Iron Man was like a B character. He was like, a member of the NWOB team, Down to 10 viewers. I've already lost a big chunk of my audience today. People aren't used to watching me in this time slot, and apparently I didn't have a month's worth of stuff properly built up to be compelling, I guess. But people can still watch it on the replay, so, Have you seen No Time to Die yet? No, I haven't seen it because I'm still waiting for it to either show up on like HBO or Amazon Prime, or drop to a price that's under $20 so I could purchase it. Me and Eighth are considering going out to see The Northman tomorrow. We haven't made a final decision on that, but we were talking about going to see The Northman. We shall see. It may happen, it may not. I've been hearing very good things about it, but I don't know. I don't know. Because I just talked to him yesterday, and I was like, do you want to go do something tomorrow? I feel like I need to get out of the house. And he's like, I need to get out of the house too. And I was like, well, why don't we go see The Northman? He's like, yeah, I might want to see that. But we may not end up doing that. We may end up just like going to half price books or something. Just something to get out of the house for a few minutes. Because I feel like The Northman is one that's not going to stay on the theater very long. I feel like it'll end up hitting digital real soon. So it may not be something that we would need to see it. It's something that we're talking about more just like as an excuse to get out of the house more than, oh my God, I have to see this film. So we may go see it, we may not. We may just go to half price books and then, eat in a Mexican restaurant or something because we haven't had Tex-Mex in a while. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. He went to see Sonic the Hedgehog 2 with his friends, like the weekend it came out. I haven't seen it. And then I can't even remember. I think the last movie that he and I went to see at the theater was The Batman. There just hasn't really been that much coming out on the theater that makes me want to go to the theater to see it. I mean, the next big thing that I'm actually anticipating going to see is Doctor Strange. But I'm not all that big. I've never been that huge on the James Bond movies anyway. I mean, some people say I'm nuts, but my favorite out of all the Daniel Craig ones was Spectre. That was my favorite out of his because it was the one that felt the most like a traditional Bond movie. But I'll watch the new one eventually, sooner or later. And I watched that animated movie, Rob's Gone Wrong or whatever it was called. I ended up liking that more than I thought I would. It had some fun moments in it. I've not watched Turning Red. I watched the trailers for it, and Eighth watched it, and Eighth said, well, it's basically what the trailer was, but 2 hours of that. And I'm like, nope, not going to watch it. Not going to watch it. I'm a 47-year-old man. I do not identify with current era 14 and 15-year-old girls. That movie has nothing for me. All it's going to do is annoy me, and so I'm not going to watch it. I will skip that one. When's the next Retro Palooza you're attending? I don't know. Because, everyone out there is acting like, we're finally over the hurdle with this COVID thing. But meanwhile, I'm hearing about a fresh outbreak that's happening. I think, where was it? Philadelphia? I can't remember now. And, it's had a resurgence in China. And according to a friend of mine, it's having a resurgence where he lives up in Canada. And my health has deteriorated since the last time that I went to a Retropalooza, to where, I'm not walking as good as I used to. My back is worse than it used to be. And, we would go there to hang out with friends, but I'd also go to offer my help with setting up and breaking down the con. And I don't know that I could do that physically anymore. Not unless, things changed. And, I don't want Jay footing the bill for me on getting in there and what have you. I don't want to seem like I'm taking advantage of them because they don't charge me to get into the con because I come to help. And I don't want to feel like I'm taking advantage of them or I'm letting them down or whatnot. And at the same time, I still know people that are getting out and catching this thing. And, I don't know anyone who has gone to Retropalooza and caught the virus there. But at the same time, my immune system is fairly compromised, and I just don't know. I don't know. And plus, because of the fact that I'm so focused on trying to get my bills paid off in the next couple of years, I don't really have, Yeah, typically when I go to Retropalooza, in the past I've ended up spending a fair amount of money there, and I just can't afford to do that now. I mean, me and Eighth would literally come home with bags full of stuff, just whole bags full of stuff, and I can't really afford to be doing that right now. You know, I spent that little bit out of my, if I had taken like $1,000 of my bonus check and said, you know, I'm gonna split this in half and we're gonna go to Retropalooza and spend 500 on this one and 500 on that one, maybe. But I was so focused on paying the bills that, you know, I had one thing that I'd been wanting to get and I hadn't been able to get it, and Eighth had one thing that he really wanted to get that he hadn't been able to get it, and so we bought them. And so now I don't have money left over for Retropalooza, because not only has my rent gone up, but groceries have gone up. Gas hasn't really affected me because I don't drive around that much. My electricity bill has gone up. My internet bill has gone up. All of my bills, aside from gasoline, have gone up in the last year. And to where the raise that I got this year, it didn't benefit me at all, because all it's done is covered how my bills have gone up. So instead of being a raise, it became more of a cost of living increase because of inflation that's going on and what have you. So, I mean, I could drive up there, but I don't really have the money for paying for a hotel room or paying for our food while we're there. And, you know, there has been one time where I went to Retropalooza where Jay had a room left over, I think, from a cancellation or something, that he had reserved for people that were like guests and people in his family that helped work the con and help set up and break down. And he covered the cost of me staying in a hotel room that one time. And I would never ask him to do that a second time just so I could be there. I wouldn't do it. Especially when I'm not currently physically able to offer any more help than I could. Literally, the only thing that I would be able to help him with is sitting with the ladies of his family who handle setting up the cash register and setting up all the T-shirts they sell and making the lanyards that they make, and then helping 16-Bit Pete set up the retro gaming section, you know, hooking up the consoles and all that. That's literally all I'd be able to do for him. And I wouldn't feel right. I wouldn't feel right about it. I'd love to be there. I haven't seen my friends in 2 years. But I just wouldn't feel right about it. Longhorn or Outback? Well, I don't really have an Outback near me. So by default, I'd have to go with Longhorn. We used to have a Longhorn and a Logan's, but the Logan's went out of business during the virus. I liked Logan's better than Longhorn because they had those amazing rolls. Logan's had these great rolls, and their steak was just as good as Longhorn's, but cheaper. And now Logan's is gone, and all there is Longhorn. And so when we feel like we have to have a steak, we get it from Longhorn. I was bored out of my mind watching the Nolan films. I thought they were terrible. Only saw them because my friends were fans. Well, we can agree to disagree. What's your favorite video game soundtrack? Mega Man 2 and tied with Uncharted 2. Would probably be my two favorite soundtracks in video games. That being said, I'm going to go ahead and do this now so I don't forget it because it's 1:59. Now I get to use this again. 1 hour remaining. We are $35 short of an hour extension. So we've got 1 hour left at this point. Thoughts on the death of Razor Ramon? I was never a tremendous fan of Razor Ramon. I liked him better when he was playing a version of himself in The Outsiders. That being Scott Hall. Well, he's a man that lived a hard life, that a lot of it he inflicted upon himself. And so, he wasn't even that old, but when you break a hip, it's very easy for you to die from breaking your hip, because that's a break that can leave you open, very susceptible to infection and various other problems. And I think in the case of his, it caused a blood clot that got to his heart and killed him. But, I enjoyed watching him in The Outsiders. Didn't really care that much about him when he was Razor Ramon. But he did have a funny sense of humor to him. So, not one of my favorite wrestlers, but... Hold on a second. My buddy Jeff just texted me out of the blue here. Apparently he finished a song. He's finished a new song that he's working on, and he wanted to send me the MP3, but it wouldn't let him send it as an attachment in an instant text to my phone, and he was getting mad about it. And I was like, just send it to my email, bro. Just send it to my email. Which you guys know Jeff as the guitar guy, friend of mine who helped make my current intro music for my mainline channel and whatnot. He's been really busy as of late because he's building his own studio, and he's working on his new album, and he's also working with a band that he's going to be touring with, and various things. And so he's also bit by bit slowly building me a custom guitar. But of course, that's just in his spare time when he's not busy working on all the other stuff that he's doing. And so he texted me that he was going to send me a song. And then he was like, I can't even send you a text like I did. I can't even send you the MP3 like everyone else. I give the F up. And I was like, just attach it, email it to me as an attachment. And I just sent him another text. I'm streaming live right now, by the way. I mean, I've been so tired lately that I haven't even bothered to shave my head. My hair is all sweaty because I've been wearing this hat all day. But it's starting to get kind of long. I've been too tired to shave it all off. Just been too tired. this this everything just takes it out of me, man. I have like no energy for nothing. So this was something that I could at least do, and I could do it at a time of the day where it wasn't going to be affected by job stuff. So okay, so Jeff has sent me, he says, one of his new instrumentals. Let's see. Let's see. Well, I don't see it yet. I don't see it yet. Still waiting on it. I don't have much time. I'll come on for a few minutes. Okay. Yeah. No email yet. Let me refresh. Yeah, no email yet. It's not in my spam. It's not in my social stuff. And it's not in my inbox. Not as of yet, anyway. Have a new console going into the studio today. Oh, yeah, that's going to take up a lot of your time, bro. That's going to be a busy one. So, let's see here. Have you gotten a PS5 yet? I've been hearing a lot of people say that. Thanks, Biden, for bringing up people's morale. Yeah. Yeah, we have two PS5s. I have one, and Eighth has one. The physical ones with a disc drive. We both have an Xbox Series X. So, and he has old school Switch, and I have a Switch Lite that I never use. We talked about getting the Switch OLED, but I have sneaking suspicions that Nintendo are going to be announcing new hardware soon. And the thing that made me think that was when they announced another delay of Zelda into 2023, Breath of the Wild 2. Because the last time that happened, they delayed it so they could make a port of Breath of the Wild to Switch. Breath of the Wild was a Wii U game. And they delayed it so that it could be a launch game for the Switch. So here we have Breath of the Wild 2. The Switch is about 5 years old. And they're announcing that they're delaying Breath of the Wild 2 to next year. So my suspicion is that next year they're going to be launching new hardware. And they wanted a launch title for it with Breath of the Wild 2. So why should I waste $250 on a Switch OLED that I don't really have when I feel J.A. Allen just subscribed. There he is. There's Jeff. I feel they're going to have I suspect they're going to have new hardware coming out next year, whether that be Switch 2 or whatever they're going to call it. But I'm checking my email, Jeff. I was going to play your song online here for everyone to hear, but I haven't gotten an email from you yet, buddy. It's not shown up in it didn't get blocked as spam or anything. I just haven't gotten one. No email from you, bud. And as for why I'm streaming this early, it's because of work stuff. You're busy with your band and your studio and your new album. I'm busy because of my job. They're making me do a lot of additional work, and so it made it harder for me to be able to do my stream at the usual 6 to 9 slot. So for at least for a while, I'm going to be having to do it from 12 to 3 instead. So that's why I'm on at 2 in the afternoon. But as of yet, Jeff, old buddy, old pal, I have not received an email from you. In fact, my newest email is an advertisement for Musician's Friend. How you like the irony in that? Oh, Lord. But Jeff, J.A. Allen here, he makes instrumental albums, guitar albums. And one of them, of course, has already been released, which is called Vampire Vaudeville. You can get it on Amazon. I believe it's on Spotify as well. And his new album, Vampire Vaudeville 2, is, as far as I know, almost complete, or getting close to being complete. And he's supposed to be emailing me one of his new songs, but I haven't gotten that email yet. I was going to play some of it for you guys live on here to hear it, but it's being difficult with me. So, not getting... I don't know if it's a delay because of the size of the file that's being transferred or what, but I'm not getting anything over here. Oh well. I sent it. Well, it hasn't shown up yet. It might still be sitting in your outbox or something. I don't know. But I promise I'll listen to the song as soon as it does show up. You have my word, sir. I have an instrumental that I actually wrote for Jeff. Now, I'm nowhere near on Jeff's level as far as guitar skill. And especially so now because I'm slowly losing dexterity, especially in my left hand. I've been especially noticing it the last 2 months. I am misspelling things a lot more than I used to in my typing. I used to have about a 92% accuracy rate, but I've been having to correct my typing a lot more lately. And but I wrote an instrumental for Jeff that was kind of my interpretation of doing something more that's in his style of music than mine, because I'm mostly a punk player. But I haven't recorded it because my intention initially, because Jeff has planned on building me a custom guitar to replace the Robin that I lost years ago. My intention was to not record it until I could record it on the guitar that he built. So it was a piece of music that I played and recorded and mixed using something that he made as a friend for me. And so I really don't want to do it on that Ibanez, because that Ibanez is just, every time I can play that guitar, but it just doesn't feel right under my fingers. And it's almost to the point of a distraction. I don't like playing on that guitar. And so, this isn't something that, this is something that he's literally building from scrap. He went out and bought wood to carve this thing and build it himself. And that's something that's very, very time intensive. I have another friend who he owns his own custom guitar building business called Lucky Dog Guitars. They focus mostly on like Telecaster style guitars, but I've talked to him extensively about the amount of time it takes to build a guitar from scratch, an electric guitar from scratch, and it's a very time intensive endeavor. And of course, Jeff, he's working on his album and he's building a studio and he's practicing up with a band to take a band out on tour. So I realize this is something that I probably won't see for probably 3 years. But I have sat and I've planned that song out meticulously to where I could probably go ahead and go in and program the drum and the bass track for it. And then it's going to be multiple guitar tracks on it. It's going to be probably in excess of 6 separate guitar tracks on this song that I have all planned out in my head. And I've written out kind of an outline of what those are going to need to be so that I can already have it scoped out for when I actually sit down to record it. I've got all the other equipment that I need. You know, I've got my new audio interface, which you can see sitting on top of my NES behind me. And I got my new guitar pedal that I bought last year with my bonus money. And, I've got all my software set up. I'm on a more powerful computer than what I used to make that Halloween song that I did a couple of years ago. Or last year, or whenever it was. I can't even remember now. Everything's starting to merge into one big blur. So I've got everything ready for it. But if I have to wait, 3 years to be able to record it on that guitar he made, that's what I'll do. Because I don't want to do it on that thing. That Ibanez. I can't. I was not happy with the Halloween song that I did. Partly because I was still learning the studio software that I used, which was Reaper, when I did it. And so I still feel that I didn't get the mix right. I didn't really delve too much into pitch correcting for my vocals. I've always done my vocals raw, and that's the way I did it this time, and I was out of practice. So my vocals were not as good as they should have been. And the guitar was not what it could have been because I just couldn't. It didn't feel right when I was playing it, and I couldn't get the sound out of it that I wanted to have. And so, Gmail won't accept it. I'm wondering if it's because there's a size limit to attachments with Gmail. Unfortunately, Gmail are the only kind of emails that I can receive. The only other email address I have is my work address, and it blocks anything that doesn't come internal that has attachments on it. So I can't receive it that way. I'm not sure what else I could do there. Unless you uploaded it to your SoundCloud. Don't you have a SoundCloud account? I don't get that, though. You've emailed me attachments before. So I don't understand that. That sucks. I don't have an alternative for you. If it's not letting you send it to me in a direct text, which I don't know why it would do that. I have unlimited data, so I don't know why it would block you from sending it to me as a text. The Gmail thing, I don't know why either, because you've sent me attachments before, so I don't know why it won't let you send it to me, Jeff. I don't know. I want to hear it, but I don't know why it's not allowing you to do it. And I don't have an alternate email address that I could give you that would be any different, because all of my email addresses are Gmail. Except for my work address, and we can't do my work address. That thing would be caught up and blacklisted by our security system to where I'd never see it if you tried to send it to my work address. I made a guitar out of a chunk of burl wood I found on my property in Wisconsin. It took me a couple of months. Looks stunning. Cool. Jeff is really meticulous with his stuff. Knowing him, I would guess that he probably researched what type of wood Robin guitars used, and probably ordered that exact same type of wood so that he could make it as close to an original Robin as he could possibly get it. Jeff is really meticulous about details. He wants it just a certain sort of way, and He's not going to accept anything less. He won't ever settle for anything. He's got to have it exactly the way he wants it. Tell Jeff to get a SendSpace account. He can upload the file to SendSpace and then send you a link to it. Okay. I don't know if Jeff has enough time to set up a SendSpace account. It sounds like he's having a busy day today. He sent me a text saying he's got a new console going into his studio, his recording studio that he's building. And setting up consoles, you need to be there, and it's not a plug and play kind of thing, you know. You're not just popping it into the slot and plugging a couple of cables in and you're good to go. It takes work. I'm glad he's finally getting his own studio though. He talked about doing it for years, and for the longest time he was basically doing it out of his living room, and he had a Pro Tools set up with monitors and his big Pro Tools deck and everything, and he did all of his stuff like sitting there on his kitchen table. So I'm glad that he's found a better way, as he says right there, and is actually going to have the studio that he wanted to have. You know, having your own studio, that, in my mind, that'd be like being a kid in the candy store. You know, for me, just, you know, unbridled, unrestricted creativity. Good Lord. I'm going to hit F5 here. There's still nothing in here from you, Jeff. Let me delete these emails. Got some spam in here. Let me get rid of these real quick. No limited run. I'm not interested in a physical release of the Contra Anniversary Collection, since I already own them separately. Yeah, I still haven't gotten the email yet, buddy. I'll check it on my phone too in case something happened there, but I haven't gotten an email yet. Nope. Still shows that musician's friend advertisement as my most recent email. Sorry, boss. Don't know what's happening there. Because Tony, he has the blueprints of the Robin guitar that I had, which was the Robin medley. He has the specs for it, right down to the, the most minute detail. He knows exactly all the dimensions of it and what materials and the parts and everything. It's just a matter of if he's going to build a Robin guitar, he wants it to be as close as he can get it to be exactly a Robin guitar, right down to the slightest detail. And that includes, I would assume, finding equivalents of the equipment that was on it, either equivalents or things that would be better, but still retain the feel of that guitar. So, for example, it had a Kahler Spider locking tremolo on it. It had the pickups that were in it aren't made anymore. They were PJ Marks pickups. It had a humbucker and 2 single wounds, and instead of being straight, the single coils were slanted at an angle. And the neck was such and such a way. It had a very, very low action neck on it, and just various different things that he's in the other guitars that he's built, those aren't the type of guitars that he's built. So he's going to have to be doing a lot of the things that he's used to doing in a different way to replicate what that guitar was. And when you're already doing a whole bunch of other stuff and you only have a very finite amount of time to work on it, it's not something that you can just whip up in a couple of months, like you said. Like my friend who runs his own guitar business, he has a waiting list 2 years long for these custom guitars because of the things that he does with these guitars. If you want to, look up Lucky Dog Guitars, you'll find his business. But let me see here. I'll check it again. Rate your most recent transaction on the Amazon Marketplace. Yeah, I still ain't getting an email. Double check that you're sending it to the right address. Maybe I mistyped it. No, I sent you the right email address. It's spelled correct. But I haven't gotten it. Meanwhile, we're down to about the last 30 minutes. We're still $35 short of the hour extension. We got about 30 minutes left. And then when this is over, I'll rush to get me something to eat, and then I will sit and cross my fingers and hope that nobody from the office calls me. Because if they don't, then I'm going to go back to Ghostwire Tokyo and play some more Ghostwire. I'm hoping not to hear from anybody today. This week was bad enough because on top of everything else that I usually do, I was having to train one of our new team members that had just gotten promoted into the role. And, I was, of course, I'm work from home, so I was training him remotely over Teams chat. So sharing my desktop and training him remotely over a headset and Teams chat. So that was fun. And it lasted all week long because we have, we support several hundred applications. And security around those applications and whatnot. Because that's what my role is I guess you could say I'm an administrator over access management and security. This promotion I'm talking about, if I got it, it would be in a totally different kind of role than I'm in now. It would still be basically like being it would go from being from dealing with access and security management to being more of a application specialist. But I have to get certified in that application before I can take that role. Basically, it would be like being part of a resolver group, and the resolver groups make more money than I do. But again, that would push me into a higher tax bracket, so it wouldn't be that much more money because the government would be taking a bigger chunk. We'll see, though. We'll see. Never can tell. Still no email from Jeff. And here's my confirmation from Shop Pay that my purchase of the Polymega is fully paid off. Because instead of paying it all at once, I paid it in bi-weekly chunks. So I'm just going to hold on to that. I wonder who I would contact to get an estimate on when it's actually going to ship for me. Oh well. Jeff will figure it out eventually. I don't know why I'm not getting his email. I don't have, I don't have a whole lot of restrictions on that email address. It's not like it, I've got it absolutely locked down to where you couldn't send me just a regular email with a link in it or something. And I don't have any real restriction on it as far as sending me files, aside from the fact that Gmail restricts the size of attachments that can be sent to you. Becca tried to email it to you. Hope that worked. So far, I haven't gotten any email from anybody, Jeff. My most recent email in here is verifying that, as just a receipt verifying that my pre-order of the Polymega has been paid off. So, I don't know. I mean, other people don't have a problem sending emails to that address, so I don't know why you or your wife would. I don't know. I get emails to that email address all day long, so I don't know why you wouldn't be able to send it. Doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe it's just some kind of a delay. I don't know. Maybe something's going on with Google right now. I don't know. But anyway, we got less than a half hour to go. Does anybody else have any questions they want to ask? Because I've still got 28 minutes left. Could be another hour if $35 showed up, but I don't think that's going to happen today. I don't think that's going to happen. Take a sip of tea. Starting to get a little bit dry there, a little bit dry. Hey, 7th, $5 from Dark Star Angel. That puts us up to $20. So now we're $30 away from the hour extension. So let me give you a dollar bill real quick. Here you go. 7th dollar bill. 7th, do you have a funny high school story to tell us or something that happened at work? I don't know that I have a funny high school story that I haven't already told at this point. I give the F up. Something is up with Gmail as others could not get it too. Okay. Well, at least it's not me, Jeff. You know it wasn't me, bud. I'd love to hear it if I could. You know I would. You know I love your stuff. You guys may or may not know this, but for many years, the guitar work that you heard in the background of all my videos was from Jeff's first album. He gave me permission to use his first album as my background music in my videos. And didn't charge me a thing for it. And so, I love his guitar work. I'm always in awe of hearing anything new that he makes because it's so far beyond what I'm able to do. And and admittedly, I'm envious of his skill as well. I never made it to that level, not even close. It was like I improved to the point where when I was able to sit down and record the songs that I had written, the way that I had written them, that's when I stopped learning new stuff. I was like, okay, I'm good enough to make the type of music that I make. And that's where I stopped. And now, I'm an old man and with ever increasing issues with my left hand, and so now I wish that I hadn't stopped when I did. But c'est la vie. I can live vicariously through the amazing music of my friend. What was the worst restaurant you ate at? I don't know if I could pin it down to one. My dad used to love to eat at Greasy Spoons. Old mom and pop restaurants that had been there for 40 years. And he would take me to eat at some of these places. And the food was just god awful, but he loved it. And I couldn't tell you the names of any one in particular, but it was just these old ass, barely looked nicer than a shack, mom and pop restaurants scattered around Chattanooga and like the East Ridge area and the East Lake area around Chattanooga. Oh God, some of the nasty ass places he took me to eat. I'll never go back, I'll tell you that much. But as far as a funny story from high school. I had a reputation in high school as a writer. In fact, for it's kind of silly, but for several years there, before I became 7th, and that kind of became my name to everybody that knew me. Before that, my nickname in high school was Poet, because I carried around a songbook where I would write song lyrics for songs in this notebook. And every now and again, if I had a writing project that I had to do that wasn't a short story or a research paper, but was more on the side of like spoken word or poetry type things, I would just take one of my songs out of my notebook that I carried everywhere, and I would turn that in instead. There was a girl that I went to high school with, and I guess you could say it was kind of one of those friend zone type situations. She was on the cheerleading team, but she had been a friend of mine since 9th grade, and all she ever dated was football players. She was never going to date me, and I knew it. She would tell people that I was her adopted brother, is what she'd tell people. And one time, I think it was junior year, she decided that she was going to run for class vice president. And she had taken like classes in leadership and stuff like that over the summer, these like summer courses. And she had taken courses on public speaking and that kind of thing. And she wanted to give a good speech to get the vice presidentship of the class. But she couldn't, for whatever reason, she couldn't write speeches on her own. And, she needed to be giving a speech that showed that she was aware of the responsibilities that she was going to have and what the big stickler issues of the day at a high school would be. Like making sure that we had the funds for the prom prep, what the prom theme was going to be, budgeting the prom, all this stuff. That was all organized by the elected school officials, the students that were elected. It wasn't done by the high school itself. And that was the kind of stuff she needed to focus on in her speech, but she wouldn't listen to me. And finally, she said, I just want you to write it. I want you to write my speech. And I didn't want to write it. I didn't have any interest in it, And, but she was like, and I was like, well, then, I'm going to write it and it's going to include this, that. And she was like, no. I really want to focus on why I'm the best for this position. So I want you to write a speech that includes all these extra classes I've taken, all the leadership and all this stuff, the awards I've won, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, but that's just going to come off as you just caring more about yourself than about the position that you're trying to win. And she wouldn't listen to me. And I was like, all right, I'll write your speech. So I took this long ass list of things that she wanted to be able to say about herself, and I basically put it in the middle word for word. And then, as her introduction and as her closing piece, I stole lines from that old movie that I'm always talking about, that Christian Slater movie, Pump Up the Volume, where he gives these long speeches about high school life and what living in America as a teenager now is like and all this stuff. And I just stole lines from that and I put it at the top and at the bottom and I gave it to her. It took me 15 minutes. And she had no clue what I had done, because I was apparently the only kid in that high school that had watched Pump Up the Volume. Because none of the people out in the audience, when she gave that speech, knew that she was quoting Christian Slater word for word. And she didn't get elected. And the biggest complaint when people were surveyed about her speech afterwards, all she focused on was herself. She didn't touch on any of the important topics. What'd I tell her? There, to me, that's a funny story from high school that I know you haven't heard before, because I've never talked about it. Seventh, do you do Magic the Gathering? Not anymore. Not anymore. The last time I played Magic the Gathering, the set that came out after Weatherlight had just come out. I can't remember the name of it, but it was the first big set that came out after Weatherlight. As that's how long it's been since I've played Magic the Gathering. I used to be really big into it. I had multiple binders full of cards. Multiple binders. Several $1,000s worth of cards at that time. I have no idea what those cards would be worth today, because when I got out of it, I moved to Florida, decided I didn't want them in my closet anymore, and I eBayed that shit. Send it from an Apple account. Okay. I'm going to refresh. It must be something with Gmail, man, because I'm not getting any new email over here. Here, I'll close the window and relaunch my mail. Yeah. Nothing in my primary. Nothing from you or Becca in my social. Nothing in the promotions folder. There's no new email coming in. I know not why. I don't want you to get late on your studio stuff just trying to get me a copy of your song, Jeff. Don't put yourself out just trying to send me an MP3, bro. I'm sure Gmail will start working eventually. I trolled the school and that girl before the internet. Well, no, the internet was in its very early stages at that point. We would have been talking about 1991. So, America Online existed. Do you like Earthworm Jim, the video game, and the Saturday morning cartoon? Yes, J.A. Allen, the music creator. That's who that is. Do you like... no, I never watched the cartoon. The video game was so-so, but it was never one of my favorites. Are you going to get Vampire the Masquerade Swanson? I reserved it. I don't know anything about that game. The only Vampire the Masquerade that I'm familiar with is the original tabletop RPG. And I never was that big of a fan of it. The only horror-themed tabletop RPG that I ever got into was Call of Cthulhu. I played several sessions of Call of Cthulhu back in the day. The one I remember the most from Call of Cthulhu was the scenario that took place on a train. I remember that one a lot. It was kind of a Murder on the Orient Express kind of scenario, but it was Call of Cthulhu. It's got to be something. If you're still there, Jeff, it's got to be something funky with Gmail that's going on. Especially if you have friends that they're not getting it from you either, and they're on Gmail. That pretty much tells you what you need to know. I remember seeing a trailer for a Vampire the Masquerade video game a while back, and it looked like trash. So I didn't really have any interest in it. I don't know if that's the game you're talking about, because I know there was also like a Vampire the Masquerade themed battle royal type thing that was coming out, and I wasn't going to care about that. I wasn't going to give a shit about that one way or the other. Did you hear the news about Netflix? What, that they lost like 200,000 subscribers? That and their financials were tanking, and they had canceled a bunch of their animated projects. Yes, I heard about that. So unless you're talking about something brand new that came out today, then yes, I've heard about it. We got 13 minutes left, folks. 13 minutes left, $30 short of the $50 goal. We are almost at the end game. I mean, I started 10 minutes early, but I'm not going to count that. I'll count it as when it hits 3 p.m. Central Time as when we're done. I always give you guys a few extra minutes at the beginning just to make sure I've got everything calibrated and whatnot. Yeah, I can't even send you a link through 2 different email accounts. I have to go have a good one. Sorry, Jeff. There just must be something going on with Gmail. Although if you were just trying to send me a hyperlink, you ought to be able to at least send the link to my direct text, my SMS text. You ought to be able to do that. But I don't want you to be late, so just go do what you got to do. And thanks for stopping by. This will be part 2 of the Vampire Masquerade's Bloodlines, of which it plays like Elder Scrolls. I don't remember the part 1. Was part 1 only on PC? Probably. Did you hear they're going to do a spin-off of that 70s show called That 90s Show? Why? They tried to do that 80s show and it tanked. I watched 1 episode of that 80s show and it was terrible. It was god-awful. And 8th was kind of talking to me like, well, I don't really have a need for a Steam Deck, but I could see why you would want one. And I said, why? And he's like, because you can buy a deck for it where you can plug it into your TV on the deck like the Switch. And I said, why would I want to do that? Because the graphics on it aren't going to be as good as the 2 consoles that I'm playing off of. I don't want to play PC games in my living room unless it can be of something that's actually 3080 or better in power. Because otherwise, it doesn't benefit me to play on that as opposed to playing on PS5 or Series X. Certainly not for no $450 or however much that thing costs. I mean, shit, I've got a Switch Lite. I never play it because I don't go anywhere. I'm not going to sit in my recliner and play a handheld game when I could be playing, on the X or my PS5. Do you like the trope in video games where bosses become regular enemies? No, I've never really been a fan of that trope. And the other trope that I don't like is when you get to the last level of the game and before you can beat the final boss, you have to refight all the bosses you already beat. I hate that shit. It's like, I already beat this guy. I don't want to have to do all of them in a row just to beat the last one. I've always hated that trope. There's a show called starring Hilary Duff called How I Met Your Father. It's a spinoff of How I Met Your Mother. Well, I never was a big fan of How I Met Your Mother, so I'll care even less about that spinoff. I'm not a big sitcom guy, Chris. I watched a little bit of Seinfeld, and I watched Arrested Development, and I've watched every episode ever of Red Dwarf, and that's about the extent of it when it comes to sitcoms, man. I'm not a big sitcom guy. Yep, part 1 only on PC. I love vampire games. I'm going to be on PS5 going blood-sucking nuts. I'll have to see more about it, Tokes, before I take that dive, because if it's the one that I saw the trailer for like a year ago when it got delayed or some shit, it didn't look very good to me. So I'm going to have to see more gameplay before I make a decision on that. Well, I'm not exactly rocking a super powerful PC for Steam gaming as it is. I'm running a 2060 Super, which, 2060 Super ain't bad, but it's certainly nowhere near what my, the particular model of the 3080 that my son is running right now. Okay. Let's see if this will play. I mean, it's going to be coming out of a phone speaker. I'm going to have to transfer this to my email so I can play it over my big speakers. It's trying to load. Huh. Well, shit. I can't listen to it unless I sign into iCloud, and I don't have an iCloud account. Please sign into iCloud. I'll have to do that later. I don't have an iCloud account, and I'm not going to make you guys sit and watch me fill out an iCloud for an iCloud account. I'm not going to do it. Whoever is going to get Vampire Masquerade Swanson, press 1. I don't think you're going to find too many people that are going to buy that game, Tokes. You keep talking about Red Dwarf, but I've never seen it. I'm going to have to check it out. You won't find full episodes on YouTube, Chris. All you'll find are little clips. Probably the best place for you to watch Red Dwarf, aside from like torrenting it, is if you have Amazon Prime, you can subscribe to a channel called BritBox, and it has all of Red Dwarf on it. I think it has all the seasons and the 2 little movies they made. Were you a fan of Legacy of Kain? Yes, I really liked Legacy of Kain, and I liked Soul Reaver. That's a franchise I'd like to see them reboot, but I find it highly unlikely that that'll ever happen. Because it just wasn't a huge moneymaker for them. So I don't foresee them giving it another shot. Yeah, that was the Vampire Masquerade Blood Hunt. That's the Battle Royal that I was telling you I had no interest in. But there's another one that was shown a trailer for about a year ago, and then it got delayed, that looked like more of an RPG type thing. but it didn't really show any gameplay. It showed more just conversations and conversation trees with characters, and the graphics on it just didn't look up to current gen standard. Are you a fan of Devil May Cry? Yeah, I love Devil May Cry. I didn't like the DMC reboot all that much, but original Devil May Cry, yeah, I like it a lot. We're down to the last 5 minutes. 5 minutes, $30 short. Five minutes left. Oh! Has there been anything else that I've been watching that I haven't talked about? I don't think so. I think I've pretty much talked about everything. I haven't really been watching any new anime lately. I did finish The Ranking of Kings. I really liked that show. You know, it has kind of an old school animation style to it, and I just really liked the characters and the story. I thought that was a really good, well done show. I liked it a lot. So, if you haven't watched The Ranking of Kings, I recommend that one. It's a fun show to watch. Oh, yesterday, I watched that new anime movie on Netflix called Bubble. I know it had like a theatrical run in Japan. I don't know if it had one in the States, but I watched Bubble, and I really liked Bubble. I thought Bubble was a good movie. I really liked that one. So, if you're looking to, you know, blow 90 minutes on an anime movie, you could do worse than Bubble. Bubble was a fun movie. I liked it. Thoughts on Triple H's retirement? I don't really care. Never gave a crap about Triple H, one way or the other. Couldn't care less. Never really thought that much of his wrestling. Never really thought that much of his character that he portrayed in the ring. To me, he was like a mid-carder that got put in the main event because of who he was having sex with. That's who Triple H was to me. I wanted to bring this to your attention as a collector. I stumbled across the Super Gaming Console, which is a console that has 50,000 games from older consoles like PS2, etc., etc. Well, about that, I have the Super Console X that does the same thing already. It doesn't have 50,000 games on it. It has like 40,000, but the thing they don't tell you, out of that 50,000, a bunch of them aren't actual games. They're just like ROM hacks of existing games. So you just get the same games that you've already been playing over again. Just different versions of them, like the illegal ROM hack of Super Mario where they put him in a Sonic the Hedgehog game and stupid crap like that. You're not actually getting 50,000 unique games. But I've already got something like that. It's basically like a RetroPie type of thing. What's your wrestling Rushmore? Well, I don't know what all four of them would be, but three of them. I guess for me, it would be Ric Flair, Bret Hart, The Undertaker, and Stone Cold. No, scratch that. My Rushmore would have to have five faces on it. So it would be Ric Flair, Bret Hart, The Undertaker, Stone Cold, and Roddy Piper. Yeah, I got the text, Jeff, but it won't let me watch it without creating an iCloud account. I don't. Oh, you sent me a SoundCloud text. I got the iCloud one, but I don't have an iCloud account, so it it was going to make me sign in, so I was going to have to wait till I was free. Oh, SoundCloud. Okay. And then I can copy that link and send it over to my email so I can stream it to my PC and listen to it on decent speakers. Final master. Play. Phone. Oh, wow. For fans of the NWO, he knows that's my favorite Jimi Hendrix song, too. Wow, you actually have vocals now. I'm not used to that, Jeff. I'm not used to your songs having vocals. I know he didn't, but it feels like he made that for me because he's known for years that Voodoo Child was my favorite song by Hendrix. So I know he didn't, but it still feels that way. That's kicking ass, man. I'm gonna have to listen to this on my sound system so I can pick up on all the bass and everything. He also knows that I'm big on multi-track harmonization with guitar. I love harmony like that. I try to do that in almost everything that I do. That kicks ass. Oh, man. That was badass, Jeff. That was badass. And now it's going into Vampire Vaudeville. There we go. That was badass, Jeff. Thank you for sending me that. I'm gonna, as soon as I get off of here, I'm gonna pull that up in the game room on my sound system and listen to it again. That was cool. That was cool. I love that song. I love Voodoo Child. Oh, thank you for that. That was badass. Well, that being said, we have two more questions from Tokes. How do you feel about the POW game remake? I don't know that I've played the POW game remake. I remember playing the remake that they did on PS3 and 360 of Russian Attack, but I haven't played a remake of POW. You'd have to let me know what system it's available on. Who is your mid card Rushmore? I don't have one. I don't pay much attention to the mid card. VRR is going to take care of the tearing if your TV supports it. Well, I've only experienced tearing on one game, and that's on that particular performance mode of Ghostwire Tokyo. So I'm not that concerned about it. That's the only game I've seen tearing on in years. Years. So, it was a big problem on PS3. Didn't really experience it much at all on PS4, and that's the only game on PS5 I've experienced it at. But that being said, we've actually gone 6 minutes over because I was listening to Jeff's new song, which, I'm on cloud nine with that one. I'm definitely going to go listen to that when I get off of here. But we've run over. We're $30 short of the $50 goal to extend by an hour, so this is where I'm going to have to cut it off. Thanks for everyone who adjusted to the new showtime. I appreciate you taking that leap with me, and hopefully I won't have to do it like this forever.